Boss Monster, Guild Wars, Dungeons 3, and Greg Giddens from This Is Xbox. This is Staying In.
It's not Eggbirds, is it? Cow Eggbirds?
Eggbirds?
No.
Who's Egbert?
It's
a coffee make.
Who's Egbert? What's the one that we got? It's like some rainforest.
I think it's called Own Brand.
I love that the cheapest stuff tastes just as good as some of the more expensive
Well,
branded
actually,
stuff.
I think you'll find we buy fair trade coffee.
I never meant to assume.
But
And the coconut milk. Coconut milk.
Coconut.
That's difficult. Coconut milk.
Yeah.
Tastes good.
Thanks.
Yeah. The vanilla does as well.
That's what happens when you come to our home. You get
3 types of milk.
3 types of milk. None of them any good. The reason that obviously we're having so many coffees and teas is because we're recording. This is probably the latest recording we've done as a podcast. It is 20 to 10.
Yeah, we've started.
Yeah, and we're doing it because we're doing it late because we've got to do one for because this is being recorded before New Year's Eve, but it's going out on New Year's Day. So let's not do any of the temporal distortion. Oh, but we're really...
No, I don't mind. We can still think about New Year's without having been through it yet. Because who really knows what's happened? Yeah, I mean, even on just... If it was the 31st, we wouldn't know what was happening.
Two things have dawned on me.
Right.
First, do you have this peculiar milk with your cereals, or do you just not eat cereals?
No, we have this peculiar milk.
we have it.
But you choose different milks depending on which one you want.
Really?
So
that actually is a really weird sentence. Now that I've heard it out loud.
Well, there's loads of different types. So I would have a unsweetened almond milk or soya for cooking, which has the most basic taste, so no sweetening or anything. Then I'd have a sweetened, either maybe vanilla with cereal or coffee.
Right.
And then coconut. Coconut tastes weird with tea. It's alright with coffee, but it's a bit odd with tea.
What's it like with Cocoa Pops?
Coconut and Cocoa
Pretty good.
Pops.
Yeah.
Pretty good. It's just an extra sweet.
I have the coconut milk when I've come back from the gym.
With banana.
With banana Nesquik.
Not Nesquik.
No, not Nesquik. We're not allowed
Change
Nesquik, are we? Banana.
It's not as good as this.
Of own brand.
Own brand.
Yeah, so we have that as well.
So yeah, you choose different ones.
And we don't have cow milk or anything like that.
No, you just have
There's
other
so many. I haven't
milks.
tried cashew yet. Hazelnut's supposed to be nice.
Cashew
coffee.
milk.
There's cashew milk.
It's kind of screwed if you're allergic to nuts, but there's chocolate milk as well.
Chocolate milk.
Wait, what?
There's strawberry one.
Oh yeah,
But we can't
but
find
they're
a
like
banana one.
soya milk with strawberry.
That's very
Okay.
nice.
But they don't do a banana one, do
We
they?
don't research.
And that's my favourite.
God knows why it's the worst of the milks of the milkshakes.
Banana?
Banana,
No.
strawberry, and chocolate. Which would you have?
Out of the three,
Yeah.
yes, it is the worst. But I'm sure there are worse
That's
milkshakes.
what I mean. Well, yeah, if you put snot in it, I'm sure it would be like the worst flavour.
Hold on.
but
So
out
hold
of
on.
the classic three,
Right.
chocolate is obviously the best milkshake,
Yes, I agree.
and then strawberry, and then banana.
Right. Would you call them the classic three?
Oh
Isn't
yeah,
there
they're in most.
another one?
Vanilla?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Where is
Okay.
vanilla in this list?
Okay, vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, and banana. They are the classic.
No. Chocolate,
What?
On
strawberry.
No, sorry.
the
I mean,
order. What's the
I'm just
order?
saying that is
Okay.
the
Oh, right.
But what is the order of those four?
chocolate first,
Right.
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
vanilla.
No.
Then strawberry
Okay.
and vanilla.
Well, now
Strawberry.
the
Banana
camp is
is
divided.
definitely at the bottom, whatever the flavour. The banana.
I
is
kind
at
of
the
feel like
bottom.
banana's getting a bad rap here.
I think vanilla might be the bottom for me.
Oh really?
Oh.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
nice.
banana might just take the... To be fair, banana on its own is fine. If I didn't
Yeah.
have a choice and I had to drink banana, I wouldn't be upset about it.
But
I love the idea that somebody would be upset.
In this dystopian future, where I'm
oh no, I
imagining-
do want banana.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, it depends on how bad the milkshake is. And when I say this, I mean I've had a very sort of upper class, only made with proper fruits, strawberry milkshake, and it was horrible because
Yeah.
it was just some blended strawberry and some milk.
Mm.
And I was like, that is pure no crap milkshake, of course, but it didn't taste how I was kind of expecting,
No.
which is a proper thick, fake strawberry milkshake.
That's why the
which
best
tastes
one's
the best.
banana, because when you mix banana with milk, you get a really good banana milkshake. And when you have fake ass banana powder with milk, it tastes like banana milk.
But you had, yes, I suppose so, but you did quite like Nesquik, which wasn't proper banana.
Was it not proper banana?
No, they're not proper banana. And yet chocolate, they don't Do they grind up? I suppose it depends on the milkshake place. Some places just
Yeah,
grind
some
up
of the
whatever you
chocolate
want.
ones are terrible.
But that was one of the things. The milk thing was one of our things that we decided in 2017 that we were going to like cut out. We decided to do like ethical eating stuff. So we have like we don't have cow's milk or something like that because of various boring reasons.
What was the easiest thing to change?
It was one of the easiest things to like lower carbon footprint and all that sort of stuff, and to eat more ethically and do
There's
all
also
that.
a lot of choice, as you can tell.
Yeah.
The only thing it's not so good for is cooking. If I accidentally use a sweet one in cooking,
Mm.
ruins.
But
Oh,
what,
right.
but what? So like, what do you think you'll do? I mean, we did that. What do you think you'll do as an individual in 2018? Like, what do you think you'll try and change?
Oh, as in... I don't know, actually. I haven't thought too much about it.
Have you had a thought about this, Greg?
What ethically might I do?
Or just-
No, just like
resolution-wise,
resolution-wise, really.
I'm-
And if you make a resolution joke, I'm gonna go
no,
absolutely mad.
I wasn't going to, but now that's
But
all
now
I can
he'll...
think
By the end.
of. Yeah.
yeah.
Come out with it.
I think I'd have to go with something very cliche,
Yeah.
which would be like a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I've been meaning to do for a few years now.
It's tricky. It's something everybody does.
Oh, yeah.
And I think everyone thinks about it after Christmas because everyone has a lot of food and then thinks, oh my God, I need to shed this in January.
Yeah.
But it's one of the last things that happens because other things get in the way. So easy to let it slide. I think 2017 was our get healthier year. So I feel like we just need to continue what we were doing now.
Okay.
Although you're doing a lot more activities.
Yeah, that's my resolution for the year. It's find a sport that I like.
I hope it's fencing.
If it's fencing, I'm going to go
really
nuts.
hope
So
it's
that is in 2018. I'm going to do fencing.
Yeah, that's coming up.
So that's coming up,
You
and
pretend you're Picard.
oh yeah, because Picard does fencing, doesn't he?
Guinan and Picard fencing away.
I will try.
My friend, don't do what my friend did. She did a fencing lesson and she was there fencing. She thought, God, they don't give you much room to see, do they? Like, there's not much mesh. And she realised she had the hat on the wrong way around, so she'd been seeing out of a tiny triangle instead of the entire mesh that was round the back of her head.
No.
But I don't know why.
What, she had the
nobody
mesh
told
on the
her.
back of her head?
Yeah,
That's
she
amazing.
had the helmet on.
That's
there.
incredible. So
But you would do that.
yeah, I will, now that I've been told that
Yes.
that can happen,
Here's the warning.
I won't do that. Yeah, so I'm going to do fencing.
You're the person that put his head in the wrong place when we went to have a massage. And you know the chairs with the holes in?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was supposed to be really relaxed, right? And you put your face through it.
This was in
Right.
this was in a
What did
spa.
you
It was in a
put
lovely
through it?
spa.
So no, I didn't put somebody else. Right, no, okay, let's get this story straight. So we went to
Oh, that kind of masseuse.
yeah,
Yes.
we went to a spa together because we decided to do like a couple's day. It was like a day thing,
Yeah,
wasn't
just
it?
have a day.
And we decided to have a nice, relaxing
Really
time because we've both
relaxing.
been working really hard. This was a while ago now, and we went down to the pool, had a bit of a swim.
Yeah.
We sat by the side, went into the jacuzzi. That was very
Lovely.
nice.
Then it was
And then
massage time.
went into massage time.
And we're in separate rooms as well. I didn't think I needed to brief him on this. I thought people would know how to put their face through a hole. But he
Because
came out.
when you lay down on a massage table, you've got the flat bench,
Yeah.
and it's completely flat. And it's like it's like lying on this table, except for there's a hole
Yes.
at the very top of it,
Which
like a
is
circular hole.
Obvious, I would have thought. So I'm there and have a really nice time. I come out and I'm like, oh, that was so good. And you are not looking particularly relaxed. And you have this massive dent in your face. He put his nose on the edge instead, hadn't you? So just your mouth was through the hole. and you, like... You just said, like, my face hurts so much. Every time she came up to my neck, I thought I was going to die. I was like, oh, just such a weird... That was about an hour or something of you being
It really
squished.
hurt. Yeah, it really hurt.
But you're so British, like so awkward that you couldn't just say,
She was
you know
like-
what,
she was
excuse
like-
me, ma'am, I've put my face in the wrong
She was
bit."
like, "Is everything nice? Everything nice?" And I was like, "Nice." Like I was in my mind, I was like screaming, like, "No, this is horrible!"
Why didn't you move?
Because I thought I was getting it wrong.
You were getting it wrong, so
Yeah,
why
I know,
didn't
but
you move?
well, that was it. But the other part of it was I thought I got it wrong, and then I thought, oh no, hold on, I couldn't get this wrong. It's just lying down on a table.
Well,
so maybe
yeah.
no, but then I thought maybe she's got it wrong, and I don't want to like insult her. Like this is what she does for a job, for a living.
But
So I was like,
actually,
oh.
you've put your face in the wrong part. Um, well, mine was beforehand to lose weight,
Right.
and I lost about 2 stone. So I did
Congratulations.
that. I think mine's to like
Looking svelte.
I maintained for a year, so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna jump up,
Yeah.
which a lot of people do, because they, unfortunately, they lose weight too quickly, and then they eat normal stuff again, and then they jump back up, which is everybody does it, unfortunately. But that didn't happen, so that's good. So I guess I'll try and maybe lose a bit more. And I'd love to go back to the gym, but it's an expense I can't quite afford right now. So I will. What I should do really is Pilates at home, because it's for free.
Maybe that
I
could
have
be
the
your-
mat, except the bloody rabbit gets in the way and thinks I'm trying to play with him, and he gets underneath me, and it's
Yeah.
supposed to be holding your body weight in interesting positions. So maybe I'll lock him away and then do it. But I really should do it because it's free and it's at home.
Okay.
Apart from that, keep working on new things. I worked abroad this year, so that's something ticked off. Went to New York, so that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then this year, who knows? Working in lots of different industries. Yeah, continue working, I guess. I worked on a AAA game this year as well.
Yep.
So that's these things kind of happen by accident, but they are sort of bucket list things that I meant to do. So
this was part of like a bigger bucket list rather than
Yes.
like a resolution, specific
Yeah.
resolution.
So I guess, because I think sometimes people get time pressure, do they think, oh god, I've got this year
Got to do it in
it,
2018.
and then they end up not doing it because they're so racked with, oh, but I never did it.
Mm.
So I sort of got just like life goals that if I tick them off, I'm like, oh, that was good that happened. But at the same time, it's good to have some sort of goal, I think, where you never get motivated to do it. Like
Well,
with being healthy, like for you, Greg, it's such an easy thing to just ignore because other things get in the way, like work or study or or you're about to. Maybe that involves the gym, but it's expensive, and you might have a problem. Like, I don't know, washing machine breaks down or something, you've got to pay that, or car breaks down, you've got to pay that, and it always happens in threes at sea. These things go like bang, 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 and you've got to pay all this money, and suddenly the gym is an expense you don't really want to pay anymore. So how are you going to get around that this year?
I won't do a gym. Like you say, the expense. I just can't justify that, especially when I won't use it very often.
Yeah.
Because I'll be at work all the time.
Yeah.
So the plan is to do something whilst at work when I have those opportunities.
Oh, cool.
Because otherwise, because I work 12 hours, and by the time I get home, I just go to sleep.
Yeah.
And then I sleep until I have to go back to work.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I haven't got time to mess around.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping at work I can motivate myself and find the time to do something.
Do you think you could get
anything
some?
really.
I know they're quite cumbersome, but some like little weights
Absolutely.
that you could do at your desk.
Yeah, well, one of my colleagues brings weights in and keeps them there, so I'd probably use those. But I found previously I got a lot of use out of one of those strength trainers, which is just a really big elastic band.
Oh, one of those, yeah. So you can. It does lots of things, doesn't it? It does. You can do either both your legs or pulling. It's just basically pulling apart.
Yeah, I was given one
limbs.
when I was doing physio for my shoulder, and it built up the shoulder really nicely. And it works, like you say, for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And just doing strength training can really burn
Oh yeah,
some fat.
definitely.
So if I could do that some more and then eat a little bit less junk, then you never know.
My boss went to a UK Games Expo. I think it might have been called UK Games Expo. So he went to it and he had a really good time. And he and some of his pals were seeing all of these different tabletop games. And one of the tabletop games that they saw was a game called Bushido. And Bushido, and they saw it and they played a little bit of it and they really loved it. And then his name's Tom, my boss. He basically came in and he brought these Bushido game models into the studio. And he was like, "Oh, Peter, you've got to have a look at these. These are great." And so I was like looking around, and it was really neat. And he was explaining to me about how there was this tabletop game, and it's a skirmish game, like really quick, fast-paced, small number of miniatures. And he was like, "This game is great. These models are great. I've played a bit of it. I think that we should try and play some of it in the studio." And I was like, "That sounds like a great idea." So then I managed to convince basically two of our designers to also put money into do it themselves as well. So myself and two other designers got starter kits for this Bushido game. And then over the lunch hours, it turned out that some of us were actually like into painting miniatures. I wasn't really. I'd stopped like playing like miniature wargaming stuff when I was probably about 16, and then. But now I've sort of returned back to it a little bit. So I started with this Bushido stuff, but I was painting these models every lunchtime, and or as many as I could, almost every lunchtime, whenever I could, basically. And we were sat down together, and we would like sit down and we would paint these things. And the first thing is those models are now finally done. There was 5 of them. We did them today. So we put them all together. So these are like. It's kind of like Eastern mythology kind of miniature wargaming. So it's the guys that I've got at Temple of Rokan, and they're sort of very connected to the earth and mystery, and so there's an old Asian dude with like white fluffy eyebrows riding a tortoise. All right. There's a panda.
They're supposed to be like
little peasant
folk,
people, yeah, and like so that kind of, and then there's also samurai. I haven't got any of these, but there's like samurai and ninja, and then there are like demons as well, like Japanese and Asian mythology demons. So I've been painting my Temple of Rokan chaps and lady, and there's 2 ladies, aren't there? Yeah, there are 2 ladies in my thing. And so I've got those finished up, and I'm really excited to play like the actual game now. I actually sit down and play it with some of the guys from work. But the thing that I found with it in 2017 was how relaxing that was. Like actually sitting down and like painting a miniature. I found that really therapeutic.
That's interesting, really, because you have such a short span of attention.
Right.
I'm quite surprised you managed to do it, really.
Not only those lunchtimes, but today's session was, did we work out it? 6 hours.
Something like that.
I said to Greg, do you want to bring some of your miniatures and we can paint them? I'm thinking, you might go, yeah, but no. But you've got some that you
and I said, yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah. And we were there for 6 hours. But the time flies by.
Yeah, and it's like something to focus on. You can't really be thinking about much else on a very active, conscious level.
No, you can't.
But your brain is subconsciously, obviously, doing what it's normally doing and figuring everything out.
Did you find that it quietened your mind a little bit?
Yeah, definitely.
There's points where I know when I was painting my Tree Lord in 2016.
Something like that.
That was before. That's when I started. I don't play any of the games. I like painting. But Pete would be talking to me and I just wouldn't hear him at all. I'd be deaf.
That must be really nice for you.
But it's one of the few things that I've found does that, because I was literally like 1 bristle's worth of paint, painting an eye, like a shine of an eye onto a tiny deer or something, and it takes all of your concentration, so you just have no room. Your brain doesn't have room to think or listen to anything else.
So what you've discovered is that painting miniatures is even better than noise-cancelling headphones.
Absolutely.
When it comes to Pete.
It's quite nice and mindful.
Excellent.
It's a really mindful exercise.
It is. It's also...
Now, I'm not very good at it.
No, I thought they turned out great.
Do they?
Oh yeah, they look.
They turned out better than
for you who you don't really haven't painted for ages, or even.
I think what you're trying to sort of stretch towards is I have no artistic ability whatsoever.
Usually, but with model painting, you've done quite well.
Yeah, it's done right.
Yeah, they look right.
Well, it's done right. Yeah.
No, you're happy with them.
It's mainly just washes. I just put washes over things.
No, but you have to paint the actual things before you can put the washes in. Washes are...
But here's the thing. I thought that part of my life was over. I definitely saw that as a hobby that was something that I played when I was a teenager. Got super, super into it. And then, for some reason, just walked away from the whole thing. I think maybe
well, it's expensive.
Well, it was...
When you're young as well.
Yeah. Definitely when you're young. But I think I just sort of like walked away from it. And then recently it's become it's not an obsession of mine at all. It's not, but that's been quite nice that I've not obsessed over like having to finish this one thing. I've left it for literally months and months and months and months. I've sort of gradually like...
When did you start? How long has it taken you? Because it hasn't been a whole
literally
year.
must have been first half of 2017 that I started.
So okay, about 7-8 months?
Gotta be. So it must have taken me roughly... When I think about it, it must have taken about 20 hours to paint 5 figures.
Which is about right, considering, because I did the majority of a figure today in 6 hours, but it's still not finished, and I'd already started on it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sounds about right.
I think my tree lord took me 30 hours
30.
to do, and that's a big model
Yeah.
as well, lots of little bits. So yeah, it's an incredible time sink. When you're younger, you have the time but not the money to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also kind of a stigma when you're younger about doing it as well, just because it's seen as such. It's quite an insular hobby.
Yeah, I struggled to find people to play with or had any interest in it back then. And part of what's reignited that now is finding people like yourselves who are interested in either the miniatures or the games.
Yeah.
And so
that's definitely a
I'm
big
back
part
in.
of it for me. Like, I want to be playing. I'm doing this because I want to play the game Bushido.
Yeah.
Like,
But you found joy in the art of it as well, because you
Yeah.
could easily just spray painted them a colour.
yeah,
and then
I
be
didn't
done
want
with
to do
it.
that in the end. Yeah.
But all of you guys, hopefully, some of you may not have finished them, but mostly, hopefully, will have finished them, and you come back and you've got your individual little teams that you painted. You will value those miniatures a lot more, and you will play with them more.
That was one of the really cool things that I found. Is it was kind of a support network. So again, like Tom basically was like, "We found this game. We think it's really cool. Let's all play it." And I think that that's one thing that miniatures games really needs. You need that support network of people around you. It's like Magic or any sort of collectible game. If you don't have a regular set of opponents, and I would say that that's opponents plural, like one-on-one, it quickly, gets pretty tiring. Unless you have a regular group of players to actually think, oh, well, the reason that I'm painting these models is because I want to play this cool game with these people regularly. The actual desire to sort of push on and...
Well, that's for you. For me,
it's different, yeah.
It was just an artistic...
Yeah, but for somebody
But
who's
for somebody
interested
who
in
actually-
the actual game itself.
Yeah.
So, like, hopefully in 2018... There you go, that's one of my New Year's resolutions. Play Bushido.
Good, because you
Yeah.
finished the model.
You and I and Alex played Boss Monster. There were dungeons.
There were dragons.
Were there?
I had a dragon hatchery.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah!
I had a couple, in fact. And Alex had some bone dragons at one point.
That is a game of spot the references.
So, for those who don't know, do you want to explain Boss Monster?
It's a dungeon building, deck building card game based on video games. And it has an 8-bit style to its art. And all of that, like Alex suggested, is referencing video game characters or even just like fantasy pop culture references. Like there were Game of Thrones references in there as well.
And it all goes through like this nice 8-bit pixel art filter. I mean, better than 8-bit could ever possibly hope to have
absolutely.
done.
Good art.
Modern pixel art.
Yeah,
But
modern 8-bit.
meant
It's
to
like,
represent like an 8-bit.
Yeah.
Even like the box is a NES style box.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you pointed out that the expansions of Game Boy style boxes is such a cool reference.
It's really nice and thematic in its visual style, and then it's really nice and thematic in its gameplay. One of the things I found with the game is it's almost like the art style and the gameplay are two totally separate themes. Like, you could have had just like traditional fantasy art for Boss Monster. Or you could have just had, some really cool looking Wizards of the Coast-esque, D&D style, nice luxurious fantasy art. But they went down this pixel art style instead. And everything about that pixel art style is nice and thematic. The NES box is a Game Boy box. The pixel art on there looks like I was saying earlier. So the human, I think they're called like the barbarian. No, the Neanderthal cave. The humans in the Neanderthals in the Neanderthal cave look like Kunio-kun characters, which is River City Ransom.
Yeah.
And
It's so cute, and it
but
really stands itself out, I think. 'Cause
well,
if it had
that's what I mean.
Yeah, if it had that art, that was the case.
That stuff all stands itself out. That's what made me go, wow, that looks amazing. And then the dungeon crawling stuff is also really thematic, but kind of separate. I didn't feel like that. I didn't feel like the dungeon crawling felt like a NES game.
No, if we didn't see this artwork and read through into the references with all the lore on the little bits to get on the cards. They could have put just fantasy elements in there, and it would have just seemed like a dungeon fantasy adventure. They could have used any theme, Lord of the Rings, name it.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that actually initially, because I've seen this game in stores before, and that is one of the things that initially made me go, is this just going to be one big gimmick? Is this pixel art style just the only thing it's really got? And then it's kind of like an okay game slapped in, a great art style slapped on the top of not very good mechanics. But actually, they're both brilliant. Like the style of the art and the actual gameplay itself is superb.
Our second match got really intense. All three of us had moments.
I messed up real bad on the second game.
I cheated for a couple of times. Accidentally.
Yeah, no one was happy about that.
It kind of played the opposite way to what I thought. I thought it was you would be the hero going through dungeons, but actually you are the boss monster. Essentially, you are the dungeon master.
Which makes it feel like Dungeon Keeper, for example.
Which is really fun.
So, I liked that a lot.
Yeah, because you are building a dungeon, essentially, aren't you?
And
So
luring heroes
in. Of course.
So, I found that really interesting and fun and nostalgic at the same time.
They could have done one that was like, because I know this was specifically kind of referencing games and fantasy, but you could have like a fantasy castle where you've got essentially like the janitor's closet and it's like a skeleton with a little mop and then like I don't know, like a whole castle that works together but has all these rooms, like I don't know, evil pit with tentacles in. Then you're just basically building a fort.
Right.
But you could have the kind of joke of that it's like evil monsters that still have to clean out the tentacle monster and stuff, and the training rooms and that kind of thing. I feel like you could easily build off other games from it.
Yeah.
That are just about building up a fort of some kind, or even if it was a serious castle builder. I've not seen a game like that before, unlike something like Dungeon Keeper, but not in a card form. So it's quite nice to have quite very physical defences as well, because you build your cards from right to left, which took me a while to get used to. But that's because the hero comes from the left to right to move through your dungeon.
Yeah.
So you're building up physical cards against them. And if you put them in the wrong order, which I did, and you did, things can go very wrong.
Because all of them have effects that... So, for example, I had one card that said, if the card to your right is a trap, then... the trap is worth 3 extra damage, or can do 3 extra damage to a hero. That's one of the things I really liked about it, actually. It felt like I was... In a lot of these deck builders, it feels like you're building an engine. It feels like you're... And in this instance, it's an engine of death. But it really feels like you're trying to put together separate, potentially quite disparate components to form a working whole that effectively... sort of churns through heroes as quickly as possible, with these added elements of sometimes you don't want heroes to come and attack you. Like sometimes you kind of want to hold fire a little bit on some of the baddies.
Defend yourself.
Yeah, it gets tactical pretty quick when you start wondering, should I try and build over this room so to not lure these heroes, especially when they turn epic and they become twice as strong. Yeah, it's very interesting, and you're playing against each other as well, where you're trying to build a better dungeon to lure the right heroes to get the points, but also at the same time avoiding certain heroes. And you've got those nasty, horrible, evil spells.
Evil,
mean, horrible.
Well, we are playing as monsters.
Indeed.
So thematically, how does that compare to games like... Because I know you're a big fan of... What's it called? Dungeons
3?
Dungeons 3, but what's the one that it's sort of vaguely based on?
Dungeon Keeper.
Dungeon Keeper, because I've never actually played Dungeon Keeper.
What?
No, did I not tell you this? Oh, we're gonna have to have a relationship conversation at some point.
Played Dungeon Keeper before.
Because because I didn't have a PC during the golden era of PC gaming.
Did I? If I had a father who played it.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, like we didn't really have PC. Like, and by the way, I've just realised I've used the word golden era. I guess between about 96 to 2005, I didn't really have a gaming PC at all, and I would say like the like what is often seen as one of the greatest years for PC games, like
But you
98,
just
99.
never, because there's emulators, so did you just never pick it up and think, I should play this?
Well, for the longest time, like getting hold of like old games was actually really hard.
Well,
Like,
not nowadays.
not now, but then now I don't have time. So when I was at university, yeah, I got emulators, but I got emulators of like SNK hardware, which, you know,
It's also not really your thing. Like fantasy.
fantasy's definitely not usually my thing. It has to be a pretty specific fantasy setting to go for it. But I never played it. But I always knew it was quite like a humorous game, like quite a thoughtful game. But there's a new. It's called Dungeons. Which number are we on now?
3.
Dungeons 3, and you've been playing that.
Yeah.
So have you been playing that on PC?
No, on Xbox One.
Okay. So is it still a management game?
It is, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on pretty much every platform. Well, it's on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC.
Nice.
And the dungeon building aspect is Dungeon Keeper. Mm-hmm. You're building a dungeon that works for the creatures that you're trying... Or in this case, you're hiring the creatures rather than luring them into the dungeon. But in order to cater to them, you have to build certain rooms... you have to collect mana and gold to pay the creatures and to keep the mana charged for the demons to suck on because, you know, they love it.
That's what, yeah.
So there's all that going on underground, and that's great fun in itself. And heroes invade your dungeon because they want to vanquish the evil. But the thing that makes it different from Dungeon Keeper and is great fun in itself is that you have to take your creatures topside to the overworld and then play an RTS game on top of the management game of the dungeon, and where you have to conquer whatever good dwellings are up there.
So what kind of an RTS does it turn into? Is it more like fast-paced kind of Command and Conquer-y? I know I'm lumping a lot of games together, but Command and Conquer-y, StarCraft-y, or is it a bit more slow-paced, kind of like a Total War?
It's a little slower paced, but not like Total War. Okay. I would say it's most similar, if you're going to compare it to an RTS, to Dawn of War.
Okay.
Where you have not many units, and you're relying on squads, basically. And whilst you can mix up the unit types quite well, so you have some healers, some tanks, and some DPS guys. Once you get that mix right, you're kind of sending them as a horde.
Right.
And hoping that the AI will figure out how best to use them. Whilst you can use them individually, it's a bit tricky with a controller.
Right.
With mouse and keyboard, it's going to be much easier.
Right.
The PC version is going to have a big edge there. But it's great fun. And you can play it for stupid amount of hours. Just building the best dungeon you can.
Because you've 100% of the whole thing.
I have, yeah. I spent stupid amounts of time. Got all the achievements. Very proud of myself. Even got the trickiest achievements were easily the timed missions. And this will give you an example of how long some of these missions take. There's 20 of them. One of the missions, the very challenging achievement is to complete it in 40 minutes. And I found that very difficult. Because the first time, it must have taken me an hour and a half, 2 hours to do that mission. And I was able to do it eventually, but wow. And most missions will take about an hour.
So does it keep that humour of a dungeon keeper or anything like that? Like, is it quite po-faced or?
It has a similar humour to Dungeon Keeper in that it's fourth wall breaking and it's making fun of itself, so it's quite self-deprecating. But it's also making fun of fantasy tropes and other games. There's a lot of references to Warcraft, for example, where the art style is very similar.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of references. Well, there's a few references to Dungeon Keeper, Game of Thrones.
Right.
References to like Buffy and Supernatural, things like that. So it's very much aimed at the right audience for this genre of game. And for the most part, it's on point. It's pretty funny.
I'm genuinely a bit, because I know we've recently seen games like Sims 4 and City Skylines and even Tropico and stuff like that hit consoles. Tropico maybe came out a little bit earlier, and I guess most of those have had earlier releases, but certainly more recently we've actually had those games come out and people go, oh yeah, no, these are totally valid on these systems now, on consoles.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised that games have got to a point, like especially management and strategy games, that kind of thing, they really have found a home on controllers now. It feels like we've sort of going through this period of time where, like first-person shooters did back in the mid-90s, where it used to be everyone would always say, you have to have a keyboard and mouse.
Yeah.
Like, how can you possibly think that playing a first-person shooter with anything other than a keyboard and mouse is going to be a fun time? And now, of course, we just naturally think of, we don't think that either of the, we don't think that you're hamstrung by a controller at all or anything like that, except for in, like super high precision esports games and stuff like that.
That's right, yeah. I think the key feature that's allowed this to work on controllers nowadays is the radial menus. Whoever invented those, genius.
Yeah.
That was very much how the original Halo Wars was able to work as an RTS on console. And I've seen that used in pretty much every RTS and management title since. And it works. And that's fantastic.
Got things like Stardew Valley where the controller will just snap to every button that you need.
Yeah.
So it's not floating around in the screen. Like
little tweaks to overcome what the mouse can do easily with precision the controller can't.
So I've been playing Stardew Valley on PS4. Alix has been playing it on PC. Have you played Stardew Valley?
No, I want to.
Oh, you'd like Stardew Valley.
Okay,
I'm sure I will.
So like Dungeon Keeper 2, Dungeons 3, this is Harvest Moon.
Yeah,
is to Stardew Valley, because so I played Harvest Moon back in the day. Again, that was an emulated thing. God, I stole so many games when I was a kid. That is so bad. Now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway, basically, when I played Harvest Moon back then, I played an emulated version of the Super Nintendo game and the Game Boy game, and I really loved both of them. The first Harvest Moon on SNES and the first Harvest Moon on Game Boy, and I always thought they were really great. And then when I went back and when I wrote Pocket Gamer, I ended up doing reviews of Harvest Moon games. Same when I was at Midlife Gamer, actually. I always tried to review those games because I always wanted to recapture that experience of those two games. There was a real loop to them where you would get up, you would do all of your planting and all of your watering, and you'd figure out how you wanted to lay out your farm. Sort of wander around your farm and lay out, okay, I'm going to put some turnip seeds here and do all this sort of stuff. And then you'd go down into the town and you take the money that you'd earned from the night before, from sales of your turnips that had just grown or whatever, and you'd go and buy a better watering can or a better sprinkler or more manure to make your better quality crops or whatever. And then you'd go home and then you would do a bit of mining and clean up a bit more of the farm, and then you'd go to sleep and you'd start the day again and you'd think, I'll save the game now and turn it off. And then you wouldn't. Because it has that Civilization-esque one more turn kind of thing. And I was always looking for that. And the DS games, the 3DS games, never quite hit that peak. There was some good ideas and stuff, but they all became too complicated, too cutesy, too hand-holdy.
God, they won't stop.
Like tutorials that lasted like an hour and a half.
Like, here's a spade, here's a trowel, next day, here's a hoe, here's a fucking fishing rod.
Oh, it was awful.
I know what they do. Can you not just give it all to me in one go?
All of those things really put me off. Stardew Valley.
Are you laughing at his hoe?
Is what game were you playing?
Not Stardew Valley.
Stardew Valley is that game. Basically, it's Concerned Ape, I think it is.
Yeah.
Is the original developer, and it was ported by Chucklefish. And first of all, Chucklefish has done a great port. So all of this, everything about the PC version, sort of applies to the console versions. I think there's a little bit of menu interaction that's not quite as quick as on PC, but honestly, I didn't care. But Concerned Ape basically just went, right, I'm going to take this Harvest Moon-esque game and I'm going to do it modern with beautiful pixel art and just everything that you remember about those games, the feeling of discovery and finding out secrets, and like figuring out when the festivals were going to happen and how to make people happy, which presents you would have to give them to make them feel happy and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, there's
Romance options, all that sort of stuff. And the little things that you think, if only I could have that tool. If only I could have a sprinkler that would spray around all of the squares where I put it. That would be amazing. And then 3 hours later, it turns out that actually there is one of those things in the game. And you're like, wow, that's amazing. I'm going to make one of those, or I'm going to buy one of those. It's absolutely fantastic. It really gets across this. It's a weird genre. It's called the life sim, or at least it used to be called the life sim. It's basically where there still isn't a goal to the game. Like there isn't an overarching end state. There's no game over screen. There's no complete screen. You're essentially a boy or a girl who ends up being given a farm. They move away from the city, inherit this farm, and you basically have to bring it up to making money again.
It's just free play, isn't it? Really,
it's like Animal Crossing in that way. It's like there's no. So you set your own goals, and so my goal was to. I had a bunch of different individual goals, but my end goal ended up being, okay, well, I'm going to get to a point where I want to see how far this dungeon goes down, because there's also a little a mine that you can start going down. And in the end, I got to the bottom of this mine.
Don't ruin it for you.
I won't ruin it for you. It's great. But I got to the bottom of this mine, and it was great. And I was like, what's my next thing? And so it's constantly you just think, okay, I'm going to give myself another task to go and do. And then you set about figuring out how you're going to do it.
You don't really like that, though, do you? You don't really like
No, I do really like that.
No, but you have to give yourself... You can't just freewheel it.
I can't just exist in the world. I definitely have to give myself goals.
Greg, do you like goals, or do you like...
I like goals. I like the idea of these open-ended, do what you want, do what you feel. That's why I like Elite.
Yeah.
Right.
But the thing that really keeps me playing Elite is that I play it on Xbox One for the most part, and I have achievements. And those are my goals.
I see.
Well, obviously they're achievements, but...
Yeah.
So how many do they have? Because it's kind of like a massive...
They have over 3,000 gamer score now, which is the equivalent of about 3 games.
Right.
Because each time there's been an expansion, they've added more to it, which is great. I love that is now a thing.
Crikey, yeah.
So Stardew Valley sounds very attractive to me because it's the kind of gameplay I enjoy anyway. But I could get that on the One and get my achievements. That'll give me some goals. That'll keep me going for ages.
Yeah, that's so. I put.
Really hard.
I wonder if the trophies work the same way for you on the PlayStation.
Yeah, they definitely do. As I say, I've put about 30 hours into the game. I have 10% of the achievements.
Wow.
Yeah, I think one of them is damn near impossible.
One of them is only held by 0.1%, and the way that PlayStation works, as far as I can tell, is it only goes down to 0. Basically says, of all the people who've played this game, X% of people have this trophy.
Yeah.
I think it only goes down to 0.1 or of a thing. Because I can't imagine there are that many people with the platinum, because there are a couple of trophies in that are stupendous.
So it takes a lot of time. How much money did you have? What was your most? Was it about 6,000? Do you reckon after 30 hours? If you'd not spent very much.
Oh, how much I'd earned?
6,000, yeah, but with spending a bit as well.
Oh well, I mean, basically at the end of each day, I can probably pull in like 2,000 or 3,000 gold.
Right.
But you're spending about $2,000 on like things like backpacks and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'd say about an average of maybe $10,000 by the time that you'd finish those 20 hours.
No, it's much
slightly
more than that.
But what I mean is that was 30 hours to get maybe 10 to 20 grand.
Yeah.
One of the achievements is 1 million, and then the next achievement is 10 million. And it's like, I don't even know how
it does
somebody
ramp
would
up.
get that.
Yeah.
Like
I can see how that would eventually happen, but you probably have to put quite a few.
You need to dig. Yeah. You will dig a small, because it all works on. It's all grid based. So you walk around and you walk on like an old JRPG.
Yeah.
You walk on one tile and then another tile and then another tile. So you buy like a bag of seeds and you plant them, and you have like maybe 10 things that grow, and after a week of in-game time, then they will grow, and then you can cash them all in, and then you can maybe buy enough seeds to have 15 or 20,
right?
And then you get more and more and more and more and more, But if you don't focus on certain elements, or if you get some of the farming wrong, or you don't kind of know how these games work anyway, then you can just run up against problems where you're just wasting time and money. And so, for example, I don't think you get told straight off the bat that you need to water your crops every day. But in Harvest Moon, I knew that you had to, because I'd learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
So in this game, I made sure I watered everything every single day. And so I never ran into that as a problem.
Is there a like a weather system?
Yeah. So
Does
sometimes,
that count as watering?
of course.
Oh, that's interesting.
So actually, funnily enough, you pray for rain, because basically when
Saves
it rains,
you watering,
exactly. When it rains, it saves you watering, and it means you can go and do other things.
Yeah.
And it means that you can earn more money in new ways, or go and explore the mines, or go and explore wherever it is, like other.
But the seasons
locations
will change what happens as well. So in summer and spring, it doesn't really rain very much. Autumn, it'll be very rainy. But in winter, nothing will grow.
Yeah.
So then you have to make other things. As soon as I saw mayonnaise factory, I was like,
oh yeah, you can get. So you can also
mayonnaise.
craft stuff.
Oh,
so
cool.
it's kind of taken a bit of the Minecraft inspiration, I guess, and you can craft together these different items. And the mayonnaise factory, you take eggs and it just makes mayo.
So, but then you have to get chicks to turn barn
to get the eggs you need chickens. To have the chickens you need a coop. To have the coop you need X amount of gold.
Yeah.
You need to have X amount of gold. You need to. It's really overwhelming to begin with, and when you get into the groove of it, like I listen to audiobooks when I've been playing it mostly, but when you get into the groove of it, it's like this. It's like Civilization. It has that nice up and down like flow of gameplay.
It's the upkeep of your farm.
Yeah,
and after a while you know your routine, which is really bizarre because it's not a real routine, but you get into a little routine.
It's really nice. But you've been enjoying it, haven't you?
I have. I've only played it a little bit. I did it wrong to begin with. Again, I made one of those mistakes where I don't think I planted enough quick enough. I was saving too much money too soon, and actually it doesn't mean that you make enough, really. You have to kind of spend almost everything, give yourself just enough, and by the time the new crops come in, you'll get that bit more to spend. Again, and I'd also picked, there's a couple of different worlds. I'd recommend not picking Riverlands. The rest of your town map will be exactly the same, but just your farm will change. Riverlands kind of breaks up into islands that you get lost in, and it something like there's forests or something. I chose forests the second time, just had a better layout for me.
Yeah.
Because I was just running around wasting time and you get exhausted, of course, every time you're trying to do something.
Oh, right.
So you will eventually run out or collapse and to go to bed.
There's a time, there's time throughout the day, and there's also an energy system.
Right.
So you can only do X amount of mining. You can only be wandering around for X amount of time.
Yes, it's not unlimited.
Ah, yeah.
But there are lots of different. There's so many secrets, and isn't there something like people have been playing it for hours and still not discovered all?
There's still a couple of secrets. So I went to some of the wikis to go and actually look at some of the stuff, because one of the things I wanted to do, I was just like, I'm not spending hours trying to figure out where these live. It's basically a fishing task that I had to do. I was like, I am not catching these things. I don't know why it's not working. And then when I looked it up on a wiki, I was like, oh, okay, fine. There's little things in there where they're like, this isn't explained. We assume there will be an update in the near future, because the game gets updated quite a lot. We assume there will be an update that explains what this character's motivations are, or why. Really funny things like why there is a crate at the back of a certain shop.
Oh.
So there's one crate, and for some reason it's out of place or something like that. I can't remember what it is, but it's there's an object like that, and it shouldn't really be there, and it's not really explained why it's there. But they assume that there will be some sort of narrative explanation, because everything else is narratively explained. Because there's that's the other thing. It has a small narrative, by which I mean there is an explanation of the world.
Yeah.
There isn't like an overarching this happens and this happens and this happens. It's kind of like understanding what the characters are and what some of their motivations might be. And you have to put certain things together yourself. It doesn't. So there's a really good bit, and I don't really think this is a spoiler, and I think this is worth saying actually. So
yeah, I know what you're going to say.
There's this really good bit where you get. So sometimes you get given quests, and these quests are sometimes they're like bring me a turnip, or like go and fetch this thing over here. One of them was find my purple shorts.
Okay.
So the mayor says, I have misplaced my shorts. Please find them for me. And he doesn't say where they
I
are.
remember you wandering through the woods
like-
like, where is
I was
bloody
like-
pants?
I was wandering around looking for these pants, basically. So it's put in inverted commas, these shorts. And I was like wandering around the woods. I was like, maybe he wandered off and got drunk, or went up to the bus stop. They weren't there. Like went into the little. Where could they possibly be? Then I went into one of the houses of one of the other villagers, and they're in one of the villagers' bedrooms.
Scandalous.
Scandal. And in it, in the quest log, it says, please be discreet.
Yeah. And
So you go in and you're like, oh! And then, every time that those two characters are in these... So there's little festivals that you can go to.
Right.
You realise that they're always stood together.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll be having conversations and they'll be a little bit strange. And as soon as you've gone through that quest, you're like, oh, that's what this is.
That's very cool.
Where he comes in
It's
as well,
really
goes
smart.
like, hello, I've got your order, or something like that. It's something really
Yeah. It's something like I like to make sure that all of my citizens' needs
Yeah.
are attended to.
And then he leaves.
You're like, this is
wow.
great.
Well, when you've got an MMO, it's quite easy. Do you have dailies on Elite?
No, not dailies, really.
Is there anything that just keeps you coming back?
There are, every week, there is a pair of community goals.
Ooh.
And
It's kind of like a daily, right?
that's a bit like a daily. So you grind that with everyone else on the server, and then you achieve different rewards based on the tier that you as a community reach and you as an individual reach.
That's cool.
So that is essentially the daily. But, pretty much every other online game now has these dailies, like
daily,
Destiny 2's daily.
But it's just one of those
like
things
that.
to keep you coming back every
Yeah.
day or
It
week or
keeps
month
you
or
going.
whatever.
The thing, so my MMO is Guild Wars 2. I've been playing them, both of them, the series, for about 12 years or something stupid. But 2 has rewards when you come in, just for logging in.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
thanks for logging on.
That's a good idea.
Which every 30
Thanks
days
for being here.
resets back. But the dailies are a way of getting currency, because if you had no other way of... I could see that people could get stuck. They didn't always have dailies, but you could get stuck if you just spent all your money and there's literally no way of... Unless you've got to grind it out.
Yeah.
A daily immediately gives you 2 gold, which would otherwise be quite a few hours of grinding gear and selling and that sort of thing. So it's a way of just quickly doing something. And so I've been doing that just to save up, really, because I play Fashion Wars. That's why.
Fashion Wars.
Fashion Wars. I figure out the armour that I want, and then I will do the rest of the game.
So it's like a bit like now. Obviously, I'm about to completely disparage everything that you've been playing for like thousands of hours and stuff. But some of the appeal to you, not being sexist, but some of it is dress up.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's Fashion Wars.
Is that right to say?
Yeah. But the funny thing is, with the old games, which are quite hard by the end of something, because of Fashion Wars, if I have to finish the game and do the extra bit and beat the boss on my own, I'll do it. If that skirt looks good enough, I will do it. That's the same with every other game.
Yeah.
I'll do it if I have to.
Yeah.
So I'll
but you do
beat
like
the
playing the game as well, don't you? Like, just to be clear, like.
If the game wasn't fun enough, it wouldn't be enough.
But I guess that's kind of like your driver. I guess that's you setting your own goal. I guess
that is the end goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because some of it is incredibly. In fact, there was one site that I was like, "Ooh, that's quite," but I will never get it because it's community based and it's time based and it's like it is do this bounty at this time with these people, as in not specific people, but you'd need a group of about 30 to take down this certain boss, and that it's all timed. It's all at certain moments and places, so you have to be quite lucky, really, with having enough people on the server, having everyone ready to do it. And these things do happen. Mostly, I've ticked off these things by accident, just passed through a town and seen a load of people gathered, and then being like, "Hey, what's going on?" It's like, "Oh, there's a bounty up in 2 minutes," and then it pops up, and everyone goes and does it. But these are very specific ones you have to check off. I'm just not going to be able to do them, so I make sure that it's going to be within the realms of my capability. Most of it is, but there are just the occasional ones where they're making them for the people that are on a lot and like doing things like raids and there are dungeons and stuff that I don't even touch. I am a PvEer, and I prefer it that way just because it's a bit more chill. Really, I can listen to something, kind of like Stardew Valley. I can listen to something outside, unless it's a story mission or something I should really be paying attention to. But mostly, I'll just zone out and womble around because there's just so much to do.
Because I've been peering over your shoulder, and they've been doing this like Winter's Day. Is that what it's called?
So I don't know if all MMOs do this actually, but
World of Warcraft does.
Yeah,
so it used to be something that would get me back into it every so often because snowballs and silly little.
Well, they'd add snowballs into the game.
You had snowballs that you would do quests with. I've forgotten what they called him, but it's essentially Santa.
Oh yeah,
and
evil Santa.
You would get snowballs as a seasonal gift that you could then chuck at other players.
That's brilliant.
Just for fun.
That's great.
And it was good fun. And I love it in GTA every year. They have the snowfall on the servers.
That's cool.
And you can have snowball fights.
That's cool.
That's really cool. It's little things like that. So I did Halloween came round. And the funny thing about Halloween is in Guild Wars there's the Mad King who's like this scarecrow looking guy with a pumpkin head, and he's bonkers, but he also changes one city once a year, gets completely changed in decor, so all the 3D artists have obviously gone mad with putting toilet roll all over the trees and spooky things here and there, and people keep changing into like toy spiders, and all the animations are great.
Cool.
And Mad King punishes you if you do things wrong, and it's all cosmetic stuff if you want to do it, but there was also this kind of challenge of everything was fairly easy except this one clock tower puzzle, which is a jumping puzzle. Now the game is, you do move in all three axes, you can jump now as opposed to the first one where you couldn't. That's all fine, except it is not a jumping platformer game. It's not designed to be. It's only jumping so you can have more exploration, I guess, in the environment.
So you can navigate the world.
And they've each been tailored to everybody's jumping and blah blah blah. The clock tower is a specific puzzle that is specifically time oriented that you have to get, and it's like, have you played any of the end levels of Rayman Origins? It's kind of like that, except it's got animation priority, which means as soon as, for those who don't know, if you're trying to press the spacebar, the character is not going to jump as soon as you press spacebar. It has to finish its animation, get on the ground, feel like it's like stood on the ground properly, and then it'll go. And that could be a second wasted that you'll die. And Pete, you were looking over my shoulder a bit like, I'm not sure how this could be that hard, but you tried it a bit, didn't you?
Yeah.
Maddening. You tried it 3 times, you're like, I don't really want to do this anymore.
I absolutely thought that it was garbage, that bit.
But I did do it. And I did it on Halloween, just in the evening. I remember you weren't there, you'd gone to like some party or something, you were with work, and I was just on my own, and I stuffed my mouth full of Mawam. I was like, alright, I'm just do this one last bloody time, I don't give a crap. And oh my god, and I was nearly at the end, I was like, I can't fuck it up now, and I managed to do it with one last thing, but I would have quit. That was my last time. But it's that Stardew Valley thing of just that one more time.
Yeah.
But I digress. Anyway, they put a lot of effort into things like Halloween, and recently it's been Winter's Day, so everything's all snowy. They choose one city and they make it really pretty and beautiful, and there's snowballs. I think you can throw it at people as well.
Perfect.
They've also got mounts, which now you can buy packs where they've got like little earmuffs on and gloves, and it's just nice. It brings a lot of people onto the servers again. You suddenly find a flood of people coming back.
It mirrors, the real world in an interesting
and their lore that they've got in it, which they have stuck with. Mad King has been there for 13 years through the franchise. He still does the same thing.
So do people expect it?
He's funny as well. Yeah. He's bloody funny. Winter's Day, it's a different thing. It's one of the benevolent gods comes out for Winter's Day. And they don't... In fact, they did more for Halloween than they did for Winter's Day, but I think that's because they know people aren't going to be around.
Right.
Because Halloween, some people don't give a shit about Halloween, but Christmas, most people are not going to be on at Christmas.
That's true.
Probably travelling or something. So, so they realise not everyone's going to be there on Halloween, or Halloween Day necessarily, or Christmas Day. So I totally get that. So it's more like a Winter's Day season, which you can do throughout the month. But I really like it. It keeps me.
Did you get any cool like hats?
No, this time, because it's all through the gem store. The gem store it's all cosmetic stuff. There's no pay to win. They've always said it's no pay to win, which I appreciate. And I've never actually bought anything off the gem store because I've given them a lot of money over the years, and I would like to support them through the gem store because that's how they make. It's one-time buy, and then you don't have to pay per month.
Oh yeah, it's not a subscription model, is it?
So I really appreciate that. Given them probably hundreds over the course of, but over the course of like 13 years. So really, it's quite spread out, and I would like to support them. Their main income is through the gem store, but it's all cosmetic, and obviously I play Fashion Wars, so I have to be very specific about what I would get. So perhaps I might this year actually support them because they're trying to figure out new ways of. They've just introduced loot. Well, they've had loot boxes before, but they were very small things that you could also trade on the big trading post for a more inflated price.
Oh yeah.
Now they've introduced loot boxes with the mounts, which didn't go down particularly well, but I do understand they need to make money, and I would like the game to continue, so I should probably, being in the games industry myself, it's very easy to forget about that and be like, yeah, but I shouldn't have to pay, blah, 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 and then actually you're like, well, this is a game I like, and it might stop running if I don't give into it as well. So...
But it's also about finding, like, it's also like, with all these digital purchases, it's finding the thing that you're happy to spend money on. It's like, you know,
what you think is worth.
Because there's like supporting the industry and all that good stuff that, you know, all that rot that is nice that we always think about, like, because as people who are in the games industry, I mean, all three of us are relate, you know, in the games industry to some degree. Like, for example, you know, there's things in I got Rocket League for free through PS Plus. I've never paid for a single thing. At some point, there will be a skin or I get a crate with something in it where I'm like, well, I'm just going to buy the key so I can unlock this thing. Because yes, I want to support the thing and I'm happy to do that, so I'm certainly not going to pirate the thing or do anything nasty like that. But also, you do also have to kind of derive a value from them. So I guess it's waiting for that one thing that you want to purchase, and that's the point where you go, okay, fine.
They got under a little bit of fire where they'd introduced mounts for the first time in over a decade, and that was immediate backlash when everyone heard about, like, oh no, we've never had mounts. Is it going to work? Blah, blah. And actually, they integrated them beautifully.
They were really cool.
And you can get all four of them. There was a 5 mystery one as well, 5th one. But the 4 of them are through the story, so it's not, you don't have to pay to get them. You get the basic ones, and you can dye them one colour that you like. Brilliant. So I don't have to pay for one of them. That's great. But now they're bringing out skins, so you can make these things look crazy good, like loads of different things. Some people again were like, well, they're going to interrupt the visual look of the game. And I was like, well, it's a pretty bright and colourful game anyway, and they've kept them all kind of within the lore, sort of. You've got these kind of celestial griffins that run around, but you can see that they might be magical, so they have kept them. There's nothing that's like a science steampunk.
Right.
I was going to say though, like if you play MMOs, you're not in it for the like narrative world building authenticity, are you?
There is an aesthetic integrity that they have kept.
Yes.
And if you saw a dozen flaming manta rays flying around, your visual crowding might get quite a lot. But they've tried to keep them into, like, there's an electric manta ray which you could absolutely see happening in a kind of pseudo magic world.
Right.
But there's nothing with, like, I don't know. Yeah, like there's no like big sort of lumbering horror Frankenstein monster-esque thing, which isn't in the lore at all. However, so that's about £4 and you can get a random one. You can't choose. You can get a random one. I've made my peace with that, fine. But then there were ones that you could choose and they were more than you'd pay for the game.
Oh.
So about 30 quid or something like that. And that's where people were like, So at that point, again, it's not pay to win. You don't have to buy the
cosmetic
thing. But it's what you derive value out of. And for me, that's too expensive. I'd rather buy, I don't know, more bank space, or if I had to pay that much money, I'd buy another character slot rather than just a skin. But so I think it's choosing that. Does Elite have any loot boxes or cosmetics?
Currency, right?
Yeah, there is. Well, in-game currency in the entire economy is entirely in-game.
Oh, right.
But you can buy cosmetic items. Cosmetic items? I had to check I said that right. It sounded wrong in my head. You can buy those outside on their Frontier store and then stick it in the game, and that's all about ship kits to make your ship look slightly different, change its colouring.
Have you bought any of those?
Give it lighting. Yeah, I bought some blue engine lighting.
Oh yeah,
For my trails, so that looks kind of cool.
cool.
And
How much
I
was
will.
that?
It was £1 or £2.
That's
And
pretty good, isn't it?
I think the most expensive things on there are like £7, and they're like the bobbleheads for your
Right.
dashboard, and they look great.
That's cool.
They look really cool, and they might not even be that much. That might be. It might be that the bundles are more like $7.99 or something.
Right,
But
right,
nothing's hugely expensive. It's all completely cosmetic.
Yeah.
And it's just a bit of fun. And every so often, like they have recently, they'll release a skin that's only available for a limited time, like over the Christmas period. If you want to buy it, go for it. And if you don't, then it might come back next year, but don't hold your breath.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
That's cool.
So those that did buy it have something relatively unique,
Yeah.
which is cool. So that's great. And it works. It works fine.
Have you been playing it in VR?
No, I haven't yet. Here's the thing. So I'm not sure if they've stuck it on the PlayStation VR yet. I heard that they were going to, but during playtest it ran terribly in VR on PlayStation. So that they were ditching it or just advising against it. They've certainly not put it on the box art.
Right.
So I'm not sure what the deal is there. On the Vive, I hear it's fantastic, but I've had to switch graphics cards with my dad.
Right.
Because his graphics card started playing up, and my graphics card works fine. So I've switched my graphics card for his, and I've taken his back to mine, and it's working well enough to
Right.
where I can deal with it.
Yeah. What is it?
I've now, my dad's graphics card, which is now mine, is a GTX 770. So it's
That's
a
okay.
fair few generations old now.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine for games, can't handle VR.
No.
The one I gave him is a RX 480. Yeah, 480, which is a very new card. It's a budget card,
Yeah.
about £200, but it's VR capable.
I thought you had a 1060 or something.
No, I want one of
just
the
thinking
10
about it.
series cards, and I will have to get one.
I
Recommend
For
1060.
VR.
I don't know anything about computers really. Like you helped me set my computer up, but I have a. What do I have? 10.
Now you have a 1060.
Did you get
1060? I have a 1060.
Yeah.
I have a 1060,
Yeah,
which I was very pleased with.
Your card can
That'll
walk
future proof you.
circles, run circles, in fact, around mine.
I have barely used it, but
Want to swap?
Well, we bought it. Oh god, that was a whole thing which we won't really go into. But basically, the Steam Link, we were just trying to figure out how to,
Yeah.
if it was your card, and I think it was worth it anyway because that's future-proofed that now. For
yeah, it's
ages.
fine.
And actually, it turned out it was probably a mixture of a bit of your computer being laggy and just the plug that it needed to be in
Yeah.
to have a better connection.
And maybe I'll play around with like VR
You
and
should-
stuff like that. But
You should definitely do Steam Link more. That should be a 2018.
is that my
Because
2018
you were
resolution?
going to do that the whole of last
Steam
year.
Well, I'll finish all the games that I got on PlayStation,
Yeah.
and then I'll get them. Have you actually had a chance to play around with the PSVR stuff?
Oh, yes. Yeah, so I picked up the PlayStation VR when they eventually came back in stock. I wasn't there for the launch. And I wasn't sure if I was going to get it because I had the Vive, and the Vive cost like twice as much. And also is running on more powerful hardware,
Yeah.
and it looks great, and it was great, and I had a whale of a time with it. Those wands, the Vive wands,
Yeah.
magical things to use. But people kept telling me how good this PlayStation VR was. And I do like the idea of trophies on the PlayStation, and it was a relatively well-priced unit. And, reviewing games and all that, it's useful to have as much hardware as you can get your hands on.
Yeah.
So I eventually picked it up, and it blew me away. I think it's better than the Vive.
What?
Yeah, and it's because they use, I think it's an OLED screen in the PSVR, and it's just crisper, and
Yeah.
there's none of those like almost pixel shapes on the lens which the Vive has. So it's more immersive, better picture. The blacks look better.
Did you have the first Vive or the second iteration? Of
There's a second.
Well, like not Vive 2,
Or-
but like
Oh.
there was a kind of older one, and then
You're talking about the dev kit.
yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
that
the
was,
dev kit.
because
Yeah,
that was
that was
even
dev
worse.
kit.
Yeah, No, I have the consumer,
Oh, right.
so I guess version 2. And
But you're right, the PS.
the PSVR
more
is a
comfortable as
better, it's a better
Oh,
screen.
because I think we came
More comfortable.
Did we go to
Yeah,
yours and
we
play it
did.
with the PSVR,
Yeah.
didn't we? Yeah, we did. But I thought it was really, really good. Have you continued to use it then?
Yep. I don't know what it is with VR. I find it so mind-blowing every time. I've played this game on PlayStation VR, which is essentially Breakout, but the paddle is your head. And the ball comes at you, and you've got to use your face to line up, hit this ball, and then if you headbutt the ball, you hit it harder.
Ah.
And it's such a simple game, and it's so stupid, and it's the greatest thing in the world. It's so much fun. And I just can't stop playing these PlayStation VR games, and because on PlayStation you're earning trophies as well, it's quite a compelling thing.
Yeah.
This keeps you going.
And it's just so much fun. The only thing that lets down the PlayStation VR is the Move controllers, which are just nowhere near as accurate as
really?
you want.
Yeah.
That's where the Vive just is on an entirely new level, a different
things
level.
like for me, Tilt Brush and that kind of like modelling software, I couldn't do on.
You just
PSVR.
you couldn't,
But-
and because it can't track you then when it's away from the camera, because it's really relying on that camera for those controllers.
Yeah.
So if you turn your back, that's it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work for like room scale very well, but it works fine for sitting down for the most part. But the ones are still a bit dodgy.
Yeah.
If they could fix that problem, it'd be magical.
Well, it definitely looks like Sony's going to do more and more and more stuff with VR, because quite clearly they are just the leaders at the moment. Certainly in terms of like
In terms of pushing it. I think,
pushing
yeah.
big projects. Like I must admit I don't really lean too much into VR at the moment. But whenever I think about Oculus, I sort of think barely in the game anymore. Whenever I think of Vive, I think really cool tech projects, but I don't necessarily think of specific video games.
Yeah.
But when I think of video games and VR, I definitely think PSVR, because it is just they're the spaces that I've had the most fun in video game experiences.
Yeah.
Like
But you've not really tried.
I've tried bits and pieces of Vive, and I've tried bits and pieces of PSVR. We have had fun with it, but I don't think of Vive. I think of Vive as a tilt brush machine. I think of Vive as a really cool thing to play around with some indie experimental games. But when I think of games that I want that are big scale, I definitely think of PSVR.
But there still aren't really many.
But there still aren't many.
Everyone's still on the kind of the cusp of.
But it definitely feels like Sony is funding more stuff.
Yeah.
They're certainly with PS Plus. They are certainly pushing more and more stuff with PS Plus. Like every single month now, it's like, and bonus VR game, and it's like, and they're good looking games,
Which is great, but there's a lot of party games and small games. I think we'll only really be able to tell when the big ones start coming out. So like, I would really like to try Skyrim VR and see how it plays.
I've heard it's really good.
Good.
So
Isn't
I'd like to
Fallout
try
on
it.
as well.
Fallout's on the Vive.
Yeah.
But it won't be on anything else for a while, if not anything at all.
Vive, so that's okay.
Yeah. Well, when I get a new graphics card, I might finally get to play it.
But that's the thing. I would, if Skyrim and Fallout are good, and then it will make buying the Vive worth it for me. I mean, it was worth it for a work thing anyway. But at the moment, I haven't picked it up again.
But those are games that were standard, like quote unquote 2D games that have then been given a VR treatment, and that's all fine. I'm okay with games that have been doing that. What I guess I'm waiting for is I want to see the first really big AAA proper video game that is built from the ground up to be VR.
But that's going to be ages. They're still working out on how to do a game like that properly. So these 2D it's almost like 3D moving to 4D, isn't it? Really, these games of how do you have a controller system where you're doing a bow and arrow and then a sword, and how do you, like, radial menus probably that you're choosing between. How do you move forward without actually moving forward? How do you stick someone in the same place and then have a sort of like, I know there was supposed to be like a teleport option, which sounded horrible.
It's nowhere near as bad as you might think.
Oh, that's good. I mean, in your head you think, oh god, I don't really want to be jumping around.
Because some sometimes they call it the blink move,
Yeah.
and others call it the lasso, because of the on-screen UI for that. And it works quite well, and it stops the motion sickness. If you're using a controller and moving whilst sitting there and playing VR, that can get a bit tricky.
It's horrid.
There's a PlayStation VR game, Battlezone, which is amazing fun. You're a tank. It's great.
Already fun.
Multiplayer fun. But you're driving the tank and sitting in the tank, and you're moving around and strafing and all that with the controller, and whilst you're sitting there stationary in your living room, and there's no feedback other than the controller vibrating, and you start to feel a bit woozy.
Especially if you move your head and then you strafe.
Yeah.
I've done that with a game, and my head felt like it was being split apart.
Yeah, it's why like cockpit games, i.e. driving games, flight sims, space combat, they seem to work because generally it's always forward momentum. There's very little sideways movement. And in fact,
we did in South, you're all just sat at the desk.
Yeah, Eve Valkyrie, for example, didn't feel motion sickness at all. But Battlezone, played for about 45 minutes and I felt a bit iffy.
Yeah.
I'd love to try Skyrim.
Yeah.
I feel like that
Looks
would be me
great.
set for quite some time.
If they weren't charging full
Ridiculous.
price for it, and I already owned that game 3 times, 360, Xbox One,
Yeah, same.
and PC. I can't afford to buy
I
it
owned
again.
it twice.
I can't do it.
They did that nice HD release free, didn't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
You'd
so
already
my
bought
Steam
it.
version got upgraded,
Yeah.
but I'd already bought it 3
Yeah,
times.
I'd already played it as well by then, like 130 hours. You're like, I don't really. Yeah.
But
so
yeah.
it is. Maybe it'll come on sale at some point. But
The thing that really sold me with that PlayStation VR as well was the first experience we 3 had with it. Those multiplayer
That's so
games in a free game, and they were so well suited to multiplayer with a VR headset.
Was that with the little playroom robots?
Yeah,
those were cool.
The cat and the
and
robots.
and the voice monitor as well.
One person on the VR and the other 2 on the TV. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
I really
Little
loved
laugh,
actually the cat.
That was so great.
So that experience where basically everybody else is a mouse and the cat is trying to catch the mice, and the mice have to move very, very slowly
And if you're
and
in
then
the,
stop if the cat pokes its little head out.
And if you're in the VR headset, you're the cat, aren't you? You see these little shadows.
So you're in the cat's head,
Yeah.
and then if you're looking at the TV screen, because it's what's called second screen. So if you're looking at the TV screen, you're one of the other people who's got a controller. Then you're the mice. And one of the things I really love is there's clearly a microphone somewhere on the actual headset.
Yeah.
And when the cat player sticks their head out of the window of the curtain and peeks through and sees the mice and laughs, the cat laughs on screen as well.
Yeah.
But it's a high
So
pitched
you go like
modular.
ha, 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 ha.
Yeah.
And it comes out like
and it makes you laugh even more.
Yeah, it's so fun.
And it is a really nice. That's what I
and
really
the little
like
mouth
about the.
opens as well, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
that's
Yeah.
what I really like about the second screen stuff, because that's the thing to me that's always been a bit worrying about where this VR multiplayer stuff is going along, because none of the consoles at the moment are capable of running more than one headset. And I also kind of find the idea of 2 people sat in like doing couch VR with 2 headsets on, like I find that really odd. But the second screen stuff, where everybody else is playing essentially a traditional 2D game, as somebody else is having this cool VR experience, I never felt like I was being left out.
No, they gave equal fun to both sides.
And but it was also really interesting asymmetrical gameplay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like there are things that you can do, and I guess again, like the Wii U had some of this stuff where it was like one person used the TV screen, one person used the solo screen that you had as the actual Wii U controller.
Yeah.
That kind of asymmetrical gameplay is actually it's really unique when you see that stuff, and it's really interesting because it forces you to play in different ways, which I really like.
Because also because a lot of that is like movement and controller work, but which you could do without the VR headset. But the Western one, somebody has to describe, like
The
you're in this little
target.
saloon and there's a target and you can't see it as the VR headset, so you literally have to rely on
So
description.
clever.
But somebody is actually, giving to you not through the game but out loud in the living room.
The ghost busting one where on the TV you can see the ghosts.
Yeah.
And then on the VR headset you can't. So
you
you're
just be like,
describing
top, right, left.
yeah, shoot here,
Fire
shoot there.
sink.
Yeah. He's right in front of you.
Yeah,
It's
things like
great.
that. That's using as much as they could really. But again, they're all still party games. Great, but they are still these small party games. So.
That was Staying In with Alix Briscombe and me, Peter Willington, plus special guest Greg Giddens. If you'd like to see more of Greg's work in games journalism, video production, podcasting, and more, then visit thisisxbox.com and greggiddens.com. And you can follow him on @GregGiddens on Twitter. Links to all of that stuff will be in the show notes. As always, a big thanks to you for downloading the podcast today. If you're not already doing so, then do please subscribe to us on whatever platform you're on right now. And if this one isn't working out for you, well, we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Mixcloud, Stitcher, and just about any other one you care to mention. Should you feel like leaving us a review on any of those as well, we really would appreciate it. And finally, from all of us, we hope you have a great start to your 2018, and thanks so much for listening.